Hello everyone, this is Sam over at the Foot Whisperer Reflexology Institute here today with our final ear technique video. The ear routine is maybe about 15 minutes on each side, giving it a total of 30 minutes to perform the entire routine both sides, so it's not that extensive, but here we're going to talk about the walking aspect of the actual ear routine. And I'm going to show you in a couple different angles with the video, so it is a little bit of a longer video, but still, what I'd like you to focus on is just the fundamental idea of clearing the zones. The ears are small, but that doesn't mean that you can't find points within them. So we're going to teach you how to clear each of the zones, front and back of the ear, and also how to walk the periphery, but I'd like you to focus a little bit more on feeling for the subtle intricacies of those reflex points to deactivate while you're doing the walking. So let me show you what I mean via a quick drawing intro, and then we'll move on to the technique videos for how to walk the different zones of the ear. Okay, everybody, so now let's get to walking our ear. Just like in the previous video, what we're going to do is we're going to start with our guidelines. So we have crest of the helix. We have the triangular fossa, the base of it, top of Cymboconcha. Then we have the waistline guideline, pelvic guideline, and let's do that on the other side as well. Okay, so these are our four guidelines. Shoulder line guideline, which delineates top of the ear, crest of the helix, from the notch of the triangular fossa, which represents everything chest, lung, head and neck in horizontal zone 1. Then we have that diaphragm guideline, which separates everything in horizontal zone 2, that chest, lung territory, from horizontal zone 3, that upper digestive territory. Then we have the waistline guideline. Waistline guideline delineates everything upper digestive from everything lower digestive, pelvic, reproductive, urinary. Then we have the pelvic line guideline, which separates the lobe from that auditory opening, separating everything in the lower body reflexes in horizontal zone 5 from all of those horizontal zone 4 structures, okay? So why this is important is because the way that we walk the ears is we are basically clearing each of these zones front and back. Seems simple, but it can be a little bit tricky because the ear is a very dynamic extremity in terms of its surfaces. It goes very, very deep. And also, part of the ear you can't even access from behind because it's technically attached to the head. So it gets a little bit tricky, but here's how we're going to do it. First and foremost, let's orient ourselves the right way. So this is what the ears, again, would look like if you are working on somebody for real, like in real life, IRL, okay? And from a technique standpoint, this is the view that you're going to see. We'll talk about kind of shifting from one ear to the other in a second, but basically all we're going to do is clear each of these zones individually. With both sides, we're going to start at the lobe, and we're going to go around the outside of the ear 3 times with a pincer motion first. We're also going to do that at the end as well. And then we go to our clearing of the zone. So let's talk about right ear first. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the ventral surface, and we are going to go from the inside to the outside 3 times. Okay? Then, once we're done with the front of the ear, then we're going to go to the back of the ear, represented by this dotted line. And we are going to go the back of the ear, walk the back of the ear 3 times as well. Okay? So front side 3 times, back side 3 times. We have just cleared horizontal zone 1. Then we do the same thing triangular fossa-wise. 3 times. And then back 3 times. Imagine that, okay? And this is all we're going to do. Now, with horizontal zone 3, it starts to get a little bit sticky, especially behind. So really be careful as far as your technique goes. It's going to feel a little weird because that's when the ear starts to really attach to the face. Then we have horizontal zone 4. Horizontal zone 4 is difficult for some people to grasp because they think that they're sticking the finger in the ear. You're not. If this is the antitragus, or tragus rather, that's antitragus. If this is tragus, that little flap over the ear, we're stopping right about that line. We're not actually putting the finger into the ear, obviously. That would be weird. So we're starting just outside that mark, and we're going to the outside 3 times. Again, just telling the nervous system, hey, we're going really close, but then we're moving away. Yeah. Then we are going to go behind the ear 3 times as well. And then the lobe is super easy. It's kind of detached. It's kind of floating there. The only thing you have to be wary of is size difference because people have different lobe sizes. Okay? And that's what it looks like. Really simple. It can take you a really short amount of time, but it can also be a full hour session if you're feeling and palpating for points. Okay? And then we are going to finish the routine with another walk around the outside periphery of the ear 3 times. Okay? And that is how we actually walk the entire ear. Yeah? Same thing on the other side. We're going through each zone, front and back, around the periphery, once at the beginning, once at the end, and that's it. It's a really simple technique, very easy to understand. You just need to get over the fear of working on an ear, which can be a little bit jarring for some people. But once you get over that, it's smooth sailing from there. We're just clearing out these zones and making sure that each area of the ear gets its proper attention. So let's watch the technique. Starting with our walk around the periphery of the ear, you can see I'm using that pincer technique, and then I'll flip my orientation just as we get to the crest of the helix. Doing that 2 more times, just feeling for any lumps and bumps. You can always hold points as you find them, otherwise this routine goes very, very quickly. So really stretch it out and palpate for any textural inconsistencies here. Now we're going to move on to our chopstick technique, using 1 finger to brace the back while the other walks horizontal zone 1 on the front of the ear. You can see I just slipped a 2nd finger underneath the back for extra support. Feel free to modify as needed. Okay. Can't really see from this angle, but walking the back of the ear using that index finger, again using multiple fingers to brace the front of the ear now while I trace horizontal zone 1 through the back. Moving on to 2, starting at the kind of innermost part of that triangular fossa and walking out to the edge of the ear in horizontal zone 2. Then moving to the back, again 3 times, from the innermost section to the outermost section of horizontal zone 2. Horizontal zone 3, starting in the Simbakanka, be a little bit more careful with your bracing on the backside. You'll really feel that behind the ear attachment starting to become more pronounced. Then again, because of that ear attachment, get a little bit creative with your bracing, but walking from the innermost section to the outermost section, just like the other zones. Moving into horizontal zone 4, the auditory opening, see how I'm not actually sticking my finger into the ear opening. Instead, I'm going right outside what would be that tragus. Then moving behind, being sensitive to that ear attachment, and walking 3 times on the posterior surface. Then we move to the lobe, which is super easy, nice and free. Some lobes can get pretty big though, so definitely adjust for the size of the ear. Moving to the backside. And all of these sections, we can always find various points to hold. I'm just giving you the overview of the technique. Then we finish with our trace around the periphery using that pincer technique with the thumb and index finger, again 3 times, flipping as we get to the top of the helix and repeating. Last time. And after this, we will show you the second view on the other side of the ear just for thoroughness. Great job. Let's take a look at the other side. Again, starting by tracing the outer periphery of the ear with that pincer technique, thumb and index finger, flipping right at the top just to make sure you can get the innermost part of that crest. And last time around the outside of the ear. Moving on to our chopsticks, using the index fingers to both brace and walk respectively, starting with the ventral side of horizontal zone 1, 3 times. Then switching to that dorsal side, walking 3 times. Onto horizontal zone 2 at that triangular fossa notch, walking from the inside to the outside 3 times. Each of these zones will be slightly different depending on the person's ear shape, which is also significant in terms of assessment. So always brace and walk based on the ear you're working on. And again, you can always find specific points to really address during these reflex sessions. I'm just showing you how to walk the zones. Moving to zone 3 at the Simbaconcha space, walking from inside to out 3 times. Moving behind, again being careful of the ear attachment here, which is when it starts to become really prominent, walking around that and making sure that you customize to the ear that you're on. Moving into the cavum concha, walking from the inside out, again going just at the level of that tragus, not going into or invading that ear opening. Then flipping, hitting the back side of horizontal zone 4 with 3 finger walks. All of those lovely pelvic and reproductive and urinary reflexes in there. Then moving to the lobe. Super easy, especially on this set of ears with a smaller lobe. You can really just walk that 3 times, super simple, both sides. And third time, finishing on up with the last set of 3 walking around the periphery of the ear. Notice how the texture of the ear has changed. That's something that's really fascinating in reflexology, is even though we're not really applying a lot of pressure or really kind of opening the fascia, we're stimulating nerves, which causes a lot of lymphatic flow, a lot of fascial opening and heat to unwind those tight areas. So notice a change from one set of walking to the other and really take your time finding individual points. But that's all we've got. That is the full walking routine. Great job, everybody, and stay posted for future videos.